So the January transfer window is soon upon us. In today's video, we are going to be previewing it, which players need to leave, which players the Bradford City need to keep at all costs. If you do go on to enjoy today's video, please make sure to drop a like on there for me. If you could try and hit 80 likes on today's video, that'd be massively appreciated. Subscribe if you are new as well. We are now on the road to 7,000 subscribers, so please make sure you are subscribed if you haven't already with that post notification bell on. It's free to do so and it does massively help out. Get your thoughts down in the comment section down below. I'm going to put a little comment in for every single player. Let me know which ones you think should stay, which ones do you think should leave as well. We're going to be going through all 33 first team players at Bradford City, including new signing Kieran Kelly. Make sure you drop a like on today's video, subscribe if you are new as well, and let's get into it. So we are going to be going through then in position order, starting out with the goalkeepers. First up then, Harry Lewis. I think this is a man we've got to keep at all costs. Being one of our player of the season so far. This is something we have been crying out for over the last couple of seasons. A goalkeeper who wins your points, wins your matches. He's been unbelievable so far this season. Still very young, so sometimes with the odd mistake in his game. But over the course of the season, I think he's going to be a key player for us if we are to achieve promotion this season. And Harry Lewis is a man we need to keep at all costs. Next up then is Colin Doyle. Hasn't played at all so far this season, but I would like to see him preferably stay. Obviously, he's more of a goalkeeping coach now rather than a player, but he's an option on the bench. I think if Colin Doyle isn't there, your other two options are just young kids, to be honest with you. So I think Colin Doyle, for me, in my opinion, it needs to stay with the football club. Next up then is Heath Richardson. I believe signed a pro contract in the summer. Hasn't played at all since then and has struggled to really be that third goalkeeper who travels with the squad, especially recently as well. So for me personally, I'd like to see Heath Richardson loaned out between now and the end of the season. I understand that obviously we've got the four keepers just to try and do some different things in training. If you send him out on loan to a non-league club, then he's able to still train with Bradford City, but then he's still playing matches week in, week out. I don't know if he's still playing with the under-19s. I'm not really too sure, to be honest with you, but I think Heath Richardson, it would just kind of be best for his development if he's going out and playing games week in, week out. It might be quite far down the pyramid that you find him having to play just because of his age and all that sort of stuff, but in my opinion, I like to see Heath Richardson loaned out. And the final goalkeeper is Joe O'Shaughnessy. Signed a season-long loan in the summer from Wolves, and when he kind of signed, there wasn't really too much hype around the signing. It did seem like he'd kind of just come in just to get involved in first-team football, and obviously he's not even, I think he was being on the bench once or maybe twice, potentially in one of the cup competitions, but apart from that, hasn't really featured. I couldn't really care less, to be honest with you, what happens with him, but I think more than likely he will stay just because we've signed him probably to help out with the training, so it would make sense for him to stay with the club. So Joe O'Shaughnessy, I couldn't really care less. Moving in then to the four right backs at the club, starting out with Brad Halliday. He's a man who I'm going to put in that keep at all cost category. I think he's been underrated so far this season by Bradford City fans. I've been really impressed with Brad Halliday, especially over the last couple of months and weeks. I think he's been really good. Again, like what I've been saying about Harry Lewis, a man that we've needed over the last couple of seasons, a really good first choice right back. I think he's an improvement on last season's Luke Hendry and Oscar Threlkeld as well. We'll talk about them in a moment, but for me personally, Halliday has been really good so far for us this season. At the start of the campaign, he did have a few shaky games, and there were a couple of fans calling for Luke Hendry to start matches, but I think when you've seen Hendry play, and then when Halliday comes back into the side, like when Halliday got his red card against Stevenage, I think Halliday has been a key part to our success so far this season, so I'd like to see Halliday kept at all costs. Next up then is Luke Hendry. Only played the once so far in the league this season and struggled in that match. Struggled in a few Papa John's Trophy games as well. Did well though in the game against Sheffield Wednesday, but that's all he's really played so far this season. Hasn't really played all too much. Has struggled to really make the bench on occasions, but I'd like to see Luke Hendry preferably stay. I think for a backup right back at League 2 level, obviously he signed the contract in the summer as well, 2-year extension with the option of a 3rd year as well. I can't really see Hendry going anywhere. Now if he does leave, I think it'll be more him wanting to leave rather than Bradford City wanting him to leave. Obviously we have got quite a few right back options, but I'd personally like to see Luke Hendry stay. I think he's a decent backup option when he is called upon. You know, he's kind of going to give you a 6-7 out of 10 performance, so I don't think it's the end of the world if Luke Hendry is to stay as the backup right back. Next up then is Finn Cousin-Dawson. Joined Spennymoor Town on loan until the end of the season in the summer. I don't really know too much of how well he's getting on there. I know he's had a red card or maybe 2 red cards when he has been there, but I can't say I really watch National League North football all too much to really know how he is getting on, but I don't really see a reason why we would recall him unless we are going to send him to a higher level. But like I said, I haven't really seen too much hype around Finn Cousin-Dawson at this time, so I can't really say that. Would probably tell you that he's not really doing amazing at there right now, so I think you just leave him there until the end of the season. Out of contract, I believe, at the end of next season as well. And the final right back at the football club is Oscar Threlkeld. He joined Oldham Athletic on loan until January in the summer. I believe he's injured, and I've seen rumours that he's injured until the end of the season, which obviously would see him run down the end of his contract with the football club. And for me personally, he's one of them players who needs to be sold or released, or even just loan him out again. If he is injured until the end of the season, then obviously you are going to struggle to get him out on loan somewhere or sell him, and obviously you won't be able to release him if he is injured at this moment in time. But if not, he's not really going to play, so it's probably for his own good that he does go and find another club, whether it's permanently or just on loan until the end of the season. I know he struggled with Oldham Athletic, you know, I think he scored on his debut, and since then has really struggled. Oldham, I think, are in the relegation zone as well in the National League at this moment in time, so they really are struggling. Threlkeld, whether he's injured or not making the matchday squads at this moment in time, and for me personally, he's a player who we just need to move on. Any means necessary, just get him out the door. Moving on then into our centre-backs, we'll start then with new signing Kieran Kelly. I made a full video about him the other day, so make sure you go check that out if you haven't already. Obviously, I would like to see him preferably stay. I've never seen him play football before, so I think more than likely he will come in and just provide a bit of cover for Romany Critchlow. In terms of Romany Critchlow, he's a man that we need to keep at all costs. He's been unbelievable so far for us this season. He's been really, really impressive. Hopefully, Huddersfield don't recall him. I know they're having a big centre-half crisis at this moment in time, but I think I read somewhere that they've said they're not going to recall him this season, so if they don't, that'd be massive news for us. But for me personally, Romany Critchlow is a man that we need to keep at all costs, and so is Matty Platt. I think so far this season, Platt has been arguably our best centre-half. I think since his red card though away at Mansfield, he has struggled at times, to be honest with you, in the last two games against Northampton and Leyton Orient, but he hasn't played in them two games with Romany Critchlow. So for me personally, I'd like to see Matty Platt kept at all costs. Next up then is Timmy Odesina, a man who we haven't really seen play all too much so far this season. When he has played in the league, I do think he has struggled at times. In that game against Stockport, I think he really, really did struggle, and that was the reason as to why he did get subbed off at half-time. I like to see Odesina loaned out, though he's not really going to play all too much with us. Currently having Critchlow, Platt, probably Kelly ahead of him as well, Songo potentially at this moment in time. I think it makes sense for Odesina to go out on loan, get some game time between now and the end of the season, potentially goes back to Hartlepool, or probably, hopefully, gets a club at the lower end of League 2 at this moment in time. So there is a very good player in there, but as of right now, he doesn't really fit into Bradford City with his age. Signing a 3-year contract in the summer, I think it's best for all parties for him to go out on loan, get some game time, and start developing more as a player, because he's not really going to develop by him struggling to make the matchday squads. Next up then is Jan Songo, a man for me who I'd like to preferably stay with the football club. I know a lot of people probably think he will move on in the January transfer window, but he's out of contract in the summer, probably won't get a new deal in the summer. Was unbelievable for us last season, hasn't really played all too much this season. When he has, he's come on for like the last 10-15 minutes or so just to see a game out, wins a lot in the air, always gives you 110%, fairly versatile as well, can play as a central midfielder or as a centre half. So for me personally, I like to see Songo stay from now until the end of the season, but if he does move on, I don't think it'd be the end of the world. You know, like I said, hasn't really played all too much this season, but because of his versatility and his commitment to the club, I'd like to see Jan Songo preferably stay. And the final centre half then, a man who you've probably forgotten about, Fika Kelleher, obviously signed a 2-year contract at the start of last season under Derek Adams. This season was never going to get any first team football, so he decided to go out on loan to Solihull Moors until the end of the season. It makes sense. I don't really know too much of how well he is getting on down there at this moment in time, but obviously I don't think he's really going to play for Bradford City ever again. It's one that didn't really work out. Came as a backup last season, and this season, if he stays or if he gets recalled, he's probably going to be 6th choice centre half. So makes sense for him and Bradford City not to recall him, and hopefully see the remainder of his loan out with Solihull Moors. Moving on then into the left backs. Firstly, Matty Folds. I think this is a man we need to keep at all costs. Done well for us over the last 18 months before the summer. Got rewarded as well with a new contract in the summer. New 2-year deal with, I believe, the option of a further year as well. Started out the season as our second choice left back while Liam Rydalge was playing, and since he's come in, I think he's been unbelievable. Matty Folds, I think, is a man we've got to keep at all costs. Been really impressed by his work so far this season. I think he's taken his game to a new level since last year, and I think that helps with him being consistently playing in this side. Liam Rydalge, a man who's been very injury prone so far this season. Like I said, started out the first couple of games, then has had problems with his calf and his groin. I think he had a groin operation at the end of last season as well. That clearly hasn't worked. Liam Rydalge, for me, I couldn't really care less, to be honest with you. I think he's going to be an okay backup left back at this level, out of contract in the summer. I can't really see him getting back into the side at this moment in time with how good Matty Folds has been so far this season. So in terms of the left backs, Matty Folds I'd like to see kept at all costs, and Liam Rydalge I couldn't really care less, to be honest with you. Moving in then to the central midfielders. Firstly, Richie Smallwood. I'm going to put him in the preferably stay category. Has struggled struggled at times this season, but has also shone in games as well. He's kind of been a little bit hit and miss. I don't think it helps that his central midfield partner for the majority of this season is not really very good, to be honest with you. But for me personally, I like to see Richie Smallwood preferably stay. Sign a 2-year contract in the summer with the option of a further year. Probably has been underwhelming from probably what we expected of him at the start of the season, but he's a ball-winning midfielder. He's not Kevin De Bruyne, and for me personally, I like to see Richie Smallwood preferably stay. Next up then is Emmanuel Osadibe, a man who's played maybe 10 minutes of competitive football so far for us this season, but I'd still like to see him kept at all costs. I don't think he will move on in January. I have no idea why anybody would like to see Osadibe moved on in the January transfer window. Looked really impressive in pre-season. Clearly was going to be a big part for us so far in this upcoming campaign. Obviously, we all know what happened on the opening day of the season inside the first 10 minutes. Unfortunately, suffered a double leg break, and like I said, I think there's a really, really good player in Emmanuel Osadibe. We've still got another 18 months, and I think we've got the option of a further year as well in his contract. We paid a fee for him from Walsall in the summer. It's a shame, obviously, what happened on that opening day, but for me personally, I think Osadibe is a man that we need to look to keep at all costs, although I don't think he physically can move on, because obviously at this moment in time he would fail a medical. Next up then is Alex Gilead. There's not many people on this list who I'd like to see preferably leave, but Alex Gilead is one of them people I think just has to leave. When I did this video this time last year, I think he was also in the preferably leave category. I just don't see what he offers and how he's getting picked week in, week out. You know, it's nothing personal. I just don't think he offers enough for at Bradford City. He doesn't get goals, doesn't get assists, doesn't really put tackles in. He runs around a lot, and I can give him credit for that, but when you need some quality on the ball, I just don't think Gilead offers that at this moment in time. There's rumours he's one of the highest paid players at the club as well, so for me personally, I think we need to look to move on Gilead in this, not the summer, in the January transfer window, but more than likely, I think he will stay because Mark Hughes seems to love him for whatever reason. Next up then is Ryan East. I'd preferably like to see him stay. Signed a 2-year contract in the summer with, again, I think the option of a further year from Swindon Town on a free transfer. Hasn't really played all too much, but when he has, I would say he has impressed, to be honest with you. I think the last time he started a game was away at Salford City. Looked really, really good in that game, and we've not really seen him since, and no one seems to really know why, to be honest with you. I think our central midfield partnership of Smallwood and East would work a lot better than Smallwood and Gilead, but for whatever reason, Mark Hughes persists to choose with Gilead over Ryan East. And the final central midfielder on this list, again, similar to Fika Kelleher, a man who you've probably forgotten about, Levi Sutton. Where on earth is Levi Sutton at this moment in time? I preferably like to see him stay, but I think he probably will move on in the January transfer window. He hasn't played at all so far this season. He's made the odd appearance off the bench playing right wing, which I don't really get. We've got so many quality attacking players, and Mark Hughes chooses to play central midfielder on the wing. He's obviously very energetic, but he's not a winger at all, so that's why I think he has struggled at times in this Bradford City team. I'd preferably like to see him stay, sign a 2-year contract in the summer with the option of a further year, but he hasn't really played, and he probably wants to go out on loan maybe, or even potentially permanently, and go and be playing first team football, because I think at League 2 level, he deserves to be playing week in, week out, and how this man's not even getting a look in on the bench over someone like an Alex Gilead, I've no idea at this moment in time. I think Hughes needs to freshen this midfield up a little bit more often. Moving in then to the right-sided wingers, firstly, Scott Banks, a man I think we need to keep at all costs. I don't really see a reason why Crystal Palace would recall him. I think this is his first proper loan spell away from the club. He clearly gets on with a lot of players in the dressing room. You know, he's one of them who kind of seems to get bullied a little bit by Harry Lewis and all that sort of stuff, but I think on the pitch he's been really impressive so far for us this season. If there's any Crystal Palace fans watching, you've got yourselves a star on the cards. Potentially might even make it as a Premier League player one day, but I think he's doing really well for us so far this season. Scored a couple goals, couple assists in there as well, great from dead balls, and I think for me personally he's a player we need to look to keep at all costs. Like I said, I don't see a reason why Crystal Palace would recall him unless it is to go to a higher level club. And the other right winger on this list is Dion Pereira. Unbelievable for us last season. This season just simply hasn't worked out. Preferably leave is where I'm going to put Dion Pereira on this one. If he gets recalled by Luton Town, I think that's more of a positive rather than a negative. I don't know what's changed between last season and this season, but it simply hasn't worked out for Dion Pereira so far this campaign. There was lots of rumours as well that Luton were not happy he wasn't playing 90 minutes week in, week out, when if they've actually watched some of the performances he has put in, he's been lucky to play the amount of minutes that he has done so far this season. And for me personally, didn't make the matchday squad as well against Leyton Orient, so I'd like to see Dion Pereira recalled by Luton Town or sent back by Bradford City. I think that probably will happen as well. Moving in then to the attacking midfielders, firstly Jamie Walker. I'm going to put him in the keep at all cost category. Haven't really seen him play all too much so far this season. I think he suffered a knee injury in training after the first game of the season. Has only recently come back into the matchday squads, had a couple of appearances off the bench in the last couple of matches, and we know there's a clearly a very, very good player in Jamie Walker, and it's such a shame about what happened really early on in the season with his knee injury, and hopefully he stays injury free between now and the end of the season, because I think he will be a big player for us if he is to be able to keep fit between now and the end of the season. So for me, Jamie Walker is a player we need to look to keep at all costs. I'll put Harry Chapman in the attacking midfielder position because that is where he's played for the majority of this season while Jamie Walker has been out injured. I'm going to put him in the preferably stay category. I want to see Harry Chapman play on the wing with Walker in the middle, and potentially you play Scott Banks or Tyreek Wright on the other wing, depending on which side you play Harry Chapman on. I think that clearly he's a very good player in Harry Chapman. He just lacks so much end product, and he's really, really frustrating. Technically, on the ball as a dribbler, I think he's a very, very good dribbler. Passing, usually overhit or underhit or just not very accurate, and shooting wise, I think he's hit the woodwork about 1,000,000 times so far this season. It's been really frustrating to watch Harry Chapman because he's very similar to, I feel, Elliot Watt was last season. Clearly he's a very good player in there, but it's just about getting that unlocked consistently, and I don't think playing him out of position is really helping at this moment in time. Moving in then into Cian Scales, I believe he was initially sent out on loan to Farsley Celtic for 1 month, and then it's been extended and extended. I think it expires in the first week in January, unless I've missed something about it, maybe saying there until the end of the season. Obviously, a young player come through our academy and has spent this season, like I say, so far out on loan at Farsley Celtic. He has had quite a lot of loan spells so far, and I think he's one of them players, one of the few players who's come out of our academy who will one day be good enough to play into the first team. Whether he can prove that to Mark Hughes, though, between now and the end of the season, it will be hard for him to do that. I think you loan him out again, potentially to a National League club, because I think Scales probably should get a new contract in the summer, but if he's not playing week in, week out in the National League, I can't see him getting a new contract based on him doing well with Farsley Celtic. He is doing very well with Farsley Celtic at this moment in time, so maybe it's in his best interest to ask the club to potentially try and find a National League club. But, like I said, he might struggle to find that National League club just because of how poorly Farsley Celtic as a team are doing so far this season, despite how bright Cian Scales has been for Bradford. And the final player in the attacking midfielder position is Charlie Wood. Played a couple of games in pre-season as well. I think he played against Derby and potentially one of the away games, maybe York. I'm not really too sure specifically which one it was, but he has played a couple of games. Looked decent in them ones as well. Joined Guysy, I think, on a season-long loan, or it might have been until January. I'm not really too sure. I think it was a season-long loan. They're obviously tier 7. I think you probably look to loan him out again, maybe to a tier 6 club, or just keep him with Guiseley until the end of the season. So I've got him down here as don't recall, but if you are to recall him and then potentially loan him out to a higher league club, that would make sense, because I think he's done okay with Guiseley. Scored a couple goals, couple assists in there as well. So for me personally, Charlie Wood is a player we should look to not recall or maybe loan to a higher level. Moving in then to the left-sided wingers. Firstly, Tyreek Wright. I think this is a man very similar to Scott Banks that we need to look to keep at all costs this season. On loan from Aston Villa, has been really impressive in the games that he has played. I think he scored 3 goals so far for us this season. I want to say he scored against Stevenage, he scored against Harrogate, and I can't for the life of me remember who the other goal was against. Was it against Swindon at home? I want to say. I think he's been really impressive in the games that he has played so far this season. Mark Hughes liked his wingers to be inverted and cut inside, but Tyreek Wright has been so good as a left-footed, left-sided winger that he's been undroppable for pretty much all the games. Sometimes there's been games where he's gone a little bit quiet, but I think for a League 2 attacking player, sometimes that does happen. Overall, I've been really impressed with what I've seen from Tyreek Wright. Again, similar to Scott Banks, could potentially be a player one day to get into Aston Villa's first team squad, but certainly won't be this season. And I think that, like I said, very similar to Scott Banks, I think the only reason why he would be recalled is to send him to a higher level, but he has had some loan spells where he has struggled in this league, like like for Salford and Colchester, and that for me is a reason why I think he probably will stay with Bradford City between now and the end of the season. Potentially as well, we might even get him out on a permanent basis in the summer. Next up then is Aboisa. I've put him in the preferably stay category. Again, very similar to last season, has struggled with injuries so far this season, and when he has played again, he's looked bright. I think he's got an assist so far in the games that he has played, but very similar to Jamie Walker, he's been injured for pretty much the majority of the season, so we haven't really seen him play all too much. I think if he carries on constantly being injured, then I don't see how he will get a new contract in the summer. He hasn't really suffered with injuries until he has come to Bradford City. He's had 3 long-term injuries now with the football club, but I'd still like to see Issa preferably stay, because we all know there's a quality player in there. And the final left winger on this list is Jake Young. Came in from Forest Green Rovers in the summer on a 3-year deal with the option of a 4th year as well. When he came in, we all thought he was a striker, but but so far this season he's played majority of his football on the wing. Started out the season very, very good. Scored 4 goals, I think, in the first month and a week of the season, and we've not seen him play since. He's our second top goal scorer, and the guy's hardly played so far this season. I don't really know why he's struggling to make the matchday squad. He's not even making the bench at this moment in time. Why he's not making the bench, he's not being sent out on loan to a National League club again. That just doesn't really make sense to me. I'm not really too sure why Jake Young seems to be left a little bit in the cold at this moment in time, because he's a very, very good player, can score a goal out of nothing. Still our second top goal scorer, as I mentioned there. Offers much more of a goal threat than players like Lee Angle and other players on the list like Pereira, Harry Chapman. I think Jake Young offers more of a goal threat than, so I'm not really too sure why Young is not even making the bench at this moment in time. The final 3 players on this list then are the strikers. I don't know if I said there about Jake Young actually, but I would like to see Jake Young preferably stay. I know probably more than likely he will go out on loan. Into the strikers then, first up is Andy Cook. I think you'd be daft to have this man in any other category other than keep at all costs. Been unbelievable so far for us this season. I think he scored 16 goals in all competitions, 13 in the league, scored 3 goals against championship clubs in the Carabao Cup as well. I think we've got to keep him at all costs. Do you maybe look to extend his contract just because of his age? I think the club will probably look to keep it a little bit longer, but I think if Bradford City want to keep Andy Cook, I think he will probably sign a new contract, unless maybe someone like a Wrexham offer him a 3-year deal or something crazy like that. The final 2 players then, Vidane Oliver and Lee Angle. I think Vidane Oliver I'm going to put in the couldn't care less category. Signed a 3-year contract in the summer on a free transfer from Gillingham. We're not playing to his strength. He's not really played all too much as well. When he has played, he's not really looked too interested, to be honest with you. I think he scored the 2 goals so far. That 96th minute equaliser against AFC Wimbledon, and he also scored in the Papa John's Trophy against Leicester City's under-21s. Apart from that, hasn't really offered too much of a goal threat, and I think he holds the ball up well, but apart from that, for the money he's probably on as well, coming in from one of the higher level clubs, obviously coming in from Gillingham, who were in League One over the last couple of seasons, done very well there, scored lots of goals, but because they were playing to his style of play, we haven't really done that. We're not really getting balls into the box for him, and that's why I think he has struggled so far this season. I think 99% of the time he probably is going to stay with the football club this January transfer window, with him still having 2.5 years left on his contract, but he hasn't really impressed in the games that he has played. And the final player is Lee Angle. Was very good and very key to our success last season under Mark Hughes. The games that we did win, I think he was very impressive when we had Angle up front, Pereira on the right, Walker in the 10 and Vernam on the left. I think Angle was really, really good this season. Hasn't really played all too much when he has. More at the start of the season he plays as a left winger, had a couple of games in attacking midfield. Recently though he has been picked over Vidane Oliver to play as a striker. Harrogate at home in the FA Cup and also Leyton Orient away when he came on off the bench. He was picked to play over Vidane Oliver. That tells you all you need to know about Oliver's time at Bradford City when Angle is playing over him. I don't think he's really impressed so far this season. I think he's had 20 appearances now this season in all competitions, and he's still failed to score in every competition that he has played in. Lee Angle, I couldn't really care less about last season. I think he was a man who I had him preferably stay or keep at all costs. This season though, couldn't really care less about. If he does stay, then I'm not against that whatsoever, because I do think he brings some good technical ability, good at holding up the ball as well, got some good pace as well if you want to play him in behind, but like I said, doesn't really offer all too much of a goal threat, which is why I'm not really reluctant to potentially see him leave. But anyway, that is where I'm going to leave it for today's video. If you have enjoyed, please make sure to drop a like on there for me. If you could try and hit 80 likes on today's video, that'd be massively appreciated. Subscribe if you are new as well. We are now on the road to 7,000 subscribers, so please make sure you are subscribed if you haven't already with that post notification bell on. It's free to do so and it does massively help out. Get your thoughts down in the comment section down below. Which players do you think need to stay? Which players do you think need to move on as well in the January transfer window? Thank you very much for watching today's video. Have a great rest of your day. Shout out to our current tier 3 channel member B Davies211, and I shall see you all tomorrow for the Rochdale at home match preview. Peace.